Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the MCU Perspectives What If Edition. And today we're going to be discussing episode 9 of Marvel's What If / the final episode of season 1, What If the Watcher broke his oath. Now, once again, we need a recap. So at the end of episode 7 of What If, we were introduced to a version of Vision who was wearing Ultron's armor and was leading a horde of Ultron robots. In episode 8, we learned that this was in fact Ultron himself from a universe where he was successful, where he killed everyone on Earth, well, almost everyone, and managed to take it over. On top of that, when Thanos came around coming for the Mind Stone, Ultron wound up killing him and took the stones for himself, and with the stones, he was able to go out into the universe and continue destroying and killing until practically everyone in that universe was dead, with the exception of, like, 2 people, in this case, Hawkeye and Black Widow. However, as he finished his mission, he became aware of the multiverse because the Watcher was peeking in, and with the power of the Infinity Stones, Ultron became aware of his existence, which in turn alerted him to the existence of the multiverse, and so Ultron managed to break out of his universe and decided, I'm going to conquer all universes. And while the Watcher did his best to try and fight him off, at the end of the day, he was unsuccessful and had to make a hasty retreat. In this case, back to the realm of Strange Supreme, or what's left of it, and the Watcher, pretty much at the end of his rope, finally decided, I can't just sit back and watch anymore, I need help. And so, the first person he employed was Strange Supreme. And that's where this episode picks up. With Ultron at large in the multiverse, the Watcher is now going around from universe to universe gathering his group of heroes. And it's not just everyone, and pretty much he's just going from almost every single universe we've seen in previous episodes. He goes to the world of Star-Lord T'Challa to pick up, Star-Lord T'Challa. He goes to Captain Carter's universe and grabs her. He grabs Killmonger from his universe, just as we see Shuri and Pepper leading an army, or leading a group of Wakandan warriors there to take him down. When we even see him go to Party Thor's universe, as Party Thor is battling off a horde of Ultron robots, and he goes in to grab him, which is actually kind of funny, because at first Thor doesn't even notice him until the Watcher literally just picks him up. But then, on top of that, he actually goes to a new universe, one we haven't seen before, as we see a universe where Gamora and Tony Stark are actually gathering the Infinity Stones, as in this reality, Gamora actually killed Thanos and somehow wound up on Sakaar. They don't fully explain. The Watcher states that's apparently part of her title, though again, we see that, again, like I said, in her universe, she and Tony are gathering the Infinity Stones, because apparently Tony wants to use them to, as he puts it, build a suit of armor around the universe. We never get follow-up on that, but ultimately, at the end of the day, the Watcher grabs Gamora. Which, by the way, this is the first time in the What If where Tony Stark has not died, so kudos there. But yeah, he pretty much brings all of them to what I can only describe as an interdimensional bar. It's supposed to be modeled after a bar that Peggy and Steve used to go to, which they did on purpose. And when all 5 people are brought in, the person waiting for them there is Strange Supreme. The Watcher then shows up, and while everyone's saying, we gotta leave, we don't let us go, they do ultimately change their tunes when the Watcher explains everything about Ultron, how he conquered his universe and is now planning on destroying the entire multiverse. And while a couple people while Party Thor did plan to leave, he ultimately can't, because there's a portal outside that'll suck him through. But ultimately, yeah, they all decide they have to work together, and the first priority is that they need to get the stones away from Ultron, because with the stones, he has ultimate power. If they can get at least one of the stones away and then get the remaining stones, they can destroy them, which, of course, they're wondering how they can do that, but Gamora actually has a plan. The thing is, when she and Tony were planning to get the stones, I think they also had a plan to destroy them, and Gamora has a machine that would ultimately just crush the stones to dust. And so they think if they can at least get one stone and put it in, they can send the machine to Ultron, and it can ultimately take the remaining stones and then just destroy them like they did all the others. And so the group decides, okay, that's going to be their plan. And so they all go out and dub them, and the Watcher dubs them all the Guardians of the Multiverse, which I think is cool. But So, as such, he sends him to like an unknown, to a planet, unknown planet in some corner of the multiverse, we don't know where. Essentially, they believe that this planet will be off Ultron's radar because there's barely any life on there, so of course he's not going to come for them. And we get some nice little character stuff between the team as they're talking, bonding, just kind of comparing notes about each other's universes. We see stuff between Captain Carter and Strange Supreme, especially when Strange Supreme mentions how in his universe Steve Rogers was Captain America. We see Gamora and Thor kind of looking at Killmonger because he's just kind of on the sidelines. And when Party Thor was brought in, he brought one of Ultron's drone heads with him, and we see that Killmonger's just been studying it, and they're just a little cautious of him. And of course, but at the end of the day, they have like a little toast to celebrate themselves. But Party Thor unfortunately gets kind of too hot. Gets a little too excited, and so he calls down a bolt of thunder down to celebrate their team, and which in turn gets Ultron's attention. As such, Strange Supreme casts a protection spell on everyone to make sure that they're not affected by Ultron's powers, and so the group finally faces off against Ultron. And it's a very difficult battle, as Ultron is still exceedingly powerful, and with the Infinity Stones, he's able to blast them back, destroy, just kind of reshape the land, blast at them, throw them off. Just pretty much, it's clear that this is a hard battle to win, and the only reason the group is surviving at all is because of Strange's spell. But they all do their best, and they do manage to fend him off as best as they can, and thankfully they do manage to get the Soul Stone away from him. Unfortunately, though, Ultron is still powered by the other Infinity Stones, and the instant he realizes one is missing, he tries to go get it back. But the remaining members of the group make a hasty retreat. However, before Strange Supreme goes, in order to keep Ultron distracted, he opens up another portal to another universe, specifically the zombie universe, which brings in like hordes of zombies. And even like Captain Carter's like, oh no, Party Thor. It's like, oh sweet, zombies. It's like, I didn't really want to bring the zombies, but who they brought with. And so the remaining members of the group make a hasty retreat. And who did Strange Supreme bring? Zombie Scarlet Witch, which I kind of was thinking that maybe Ultron would kind of recognize her, but yeah, we don't really have that moment. She blasts him, he takes the blast, and then he nukes the planet. So at best, that was a temporary distraction. In the meantime, the rest of the group manages to make it. In the meantime, we catch up with the group and wherever they fled to, and it turns out they fled back to that Ultron's universe, right in the middle of the decimated New York. They have the Soul Stone before they can grab, or the Soul Stone is there too, and I think one of them was planning to throw it to the other or someone else, but before they can grab it, someone comes in and intercepts it, and it's the Black Widow of that universe, who is who, as we established in the last episode, is now the only remaining survivor of that world, since, well, the last person that was there was Clint Barton, and he was killed facing off the horde of Ultron robots. She does not trust any of these people because, again, everyone's supposed to be dead. But Captain Carter does manage to talk her down because, well, when we saw Captain Carter, she was actually getting ready to start up the events of Captain America the Winter Soldier. So just like with Steve in the main timeline, she's good friends with the Natasha of her timeline. So the instant Carter sees Natasha, she tries talking her down, actually tells her all these personal details about her, and even brings up how she only trusts 3 people in the world, and Captain Carter is glad to be one of them. And Natasha sees in her eyes that unwavering faith, and so she says, you must really trust, you really trust me that much, huh? And so she puts down her gun. But unfortunately, we still have they don't really still have enough time to reflect on this before Ultron manages to come in and once again tries to make a grab for the Soul Stone. At that point, it becomes a massive free-for-all between the Guardians of the Multiverse and Ultron, because they are doing their damn best to keep him from getting the stone, and they pull out all the stops. Thor brings down the thunder. We see Natasha and Captain Carter just smack Ultron with their respective shields, because as we saw, Natasha has the Red Guardian shield, and they're both just kicking ass. We see Star-Lord T'Challa blasting them, giving them cover. We see Gamora try and slash at Ultron. It's just a big giant free-for-all, and we even see Strange Supreme just constantly unleashing more of the eldritch horrors that he absorbed into himself to just hold Ultron off. And ultimately, and at one point, Ultron, even just sick of the fighting, just freezes time with the Time Stone to try and get the Soul Stone. But you got to remember, Strange Supreme has the Eye of Agamotto, which has this Time Stone right in its center, so he's able to quickly undo that, knock Ultron back, at which point they're able to get the Soul Stone away from him, put it inside the Stone Smasher, and Strange Supreme is able to hold Ultron down. They're able to send the Soul Smasher to him so it can absorb all the stones, at which point it absorbs them, and then it gets right, and then and then there's a massive explosion, and it's quiet for a second. And Thor is like, did we win? That seems a little too easy. And then Ultron begins talking. It turns out that because each universe is unique, the Soul Stone, the Infinity Stones, which are of course meant to be powerful aspects of whatever universe they're from, are also unique to each universe. So while each one may have similar powers and abilities as their proxies in another universe, that doesn't mean they operate on the same wavelength. So what does that mean? It means that Gamora's Stone Smasher was for the Infinity Stones in her universe. The Infinity Stones from Ultron's universe do not work or operate exactly like that. Ergo, at best, all they did was just blow up a machine, and Ultron is still powerful. And to make matters worse, he now realizes that the reason that the group has not been getting killed by all of his constant cosmic attacks is because of Strange Supreme's protection. And so he decides, if I kill you, the rest of you fall like dominoes. And so he just unleashes the full brunt of his power right on the group, specifically Strange Supreme, who is just pouring everything he can into just keeping their shields up. But again, it's a losing battle because Ultron is powered by the Infinity Stones, so the magical armor he put up is starting to break. However, two members of the group managed to get away, specifically Black Widow and Captain Carter, as they have a backup plan, as Natasha still has the arrow with Arnim Zola's consciousness inside it, so if they can get that into Ultron, it can override him and destroy him. But again, they need to work together. As such, both of them come at him we see Black Widow get on a motorcycle and ride up to the edge while Captain Carter runs around so she can jump Ultron. And we see her running up a building. We see Black Widow get the arrow with Zola's consciousness inside. She says, "This is for you, Clint." She pulls the arrow, and while Ultron is distracted, Captain Carter jumps up, holds his head in place, and just before he can use the power to throw her off, the arrow hits him square in the eye, and Arnim Zola's consciousness is uploaded into his brain. And while Ultron is able to knock the arrow away, Zola is like, "Oh, now this is interesting. I forgot what it was like to have legs." And of course, Ultron's like, "Who are you? What are you doing here? This body's occupied." But Zola just says, "Well, I'm not. Well, the thing is, I was supposed to keep Hydra flourishing. But since you destroyed Hydra, I think my mission now is to destroy you." And at which point, he completely eradicates Ultron from the inside. We see Ultron just sputtering and stuttering in the air. His energy is flaring from his body. But then once it's all done, he just falls to the ground. His chest fried and his body dead. But the battle is not over. Hold on a sec. So like I said, the battle's not over. As we see Killmonger walk up to Ultron's body, hold up the drone head, turn it on, and immediately he starts absorbing Ultron's armor onto himself, including the Infinity Stones, sans the Mind Stone, which is still in the Vision Ultron's head. Of course, the group is like, "Killmonger, what the hell are you doing?" But Killmonger's response is, "We deserve this." The Watcher The Watcher owes us this. We can use the stones to right the wrongs in each of our universes. We could end threats, stop violence. Captain, you could go back to your time and be with your boyfriend again. But the group still realizes that much power cannot be in one lone person's hands, and they tell him, you gotta give up the stones. So Killmonger's like, okay, fine, screw it, and unleashes as much energy as he can to destroy the group, to try and destroy the group. That is until Ultron Vision gets back up. Only, as we just established, it's no longer Ultron in the driver's seat, it's Arnim Zola, what I love is that his head is now in the chest, which is the direct reference to how he's like in the comics, and he's pretty much said, no, those belong to me. And because he's technically in Ultron's body, he immediately tries pulling on the armor and the stone so he can get them back, which brings them to which creates this cosmic tug of war between Killmonger and Zola. However, which unfortunately is still too powerful since they're both just as powerful as the other, and the stones are just caught in the middle. And if this keeps going, it could ultimately destroy everything. But Strange Supreme ultimately mentions that we weren't meant to stop them; we were just meant to get the stones away from his body. And so, with Strange Supreme uses his powers and creates and then blasts both Killmonger and Zola as they fight over the stones. As we see a crystal structure form around them, and suddenly there's another giant explosion of light, and Zola, Killmonger, the Infinity Stones, and Strange Supreme are gone. Where did they go? Well, it turns out that Strange Supreme used his powers and trapped them all in a pocket universe, with Zola and Killmonger just eternally fighting over the stones. Of course, with it being a pocket universe that's now just in like a small little crystalline bubble, it requires that someone watch over it, make sure that nothing happens to it, that it should not break, lest Killmonger and Zola escape with the stones. But Strange Supreme says he'll keep an eye on it as like a favor to a friend, which I kind of like, he's talking directly to the Watcher, because the Watcher's the one telling him all this. And so the Watcher just kind of smiles and brings the remaining Guardians of the Multiverse back to their bar, tells them that they've done a great service, that they've saved the multiverse, and now it's time for them all to go back home. As one by one, each of them goes back out from the bar, and they're pretty much all returned back to the moment when they left, as we see T'Challa go back to his universe, and in his reality, he and the rest of the Ravagers are doing their best to fend off Ego, which actually allowed T'Challa and Peter Quill to meet side by side. And what's funny too is that when they return, they're both actually fighting side by side to actually to blast off Ego. We see Gamora return to her universe and fix everything. We see Gamora return to her universe and joining back up with Tony Stark. We see Party Thor go back to his universe, and he's reunited with Jane. But before Carter leaves, she sees a picture of Steve, and she asks if she can go back to her time. But the Watcher tells her that her world, that time, needs Captain Carter. And so she just kind of solemnly accepts that and leaves. The only one that's refusing to go is Natasha, because there's really nothing left for her to go back to. And she, of course, gives the Watcher a what the hell speech, because all he did was just sit back and watch while her universe was destroyed. But the Watcher does make it clear he does care about their stories. He cares about them immensely and cherishes and wants to protect them, which I like that mindset. It's essentially like a comic book mindset. Someone that cares about these stories and wants to see them continue, wants to see these heroes succeed, to continue fighting, which I like. It's essentially a nice fan way. It's how a fan would say it. Someone that genuinely cherishes these stories and wants to keep the people in them protected as if they were real. But even with that, Natasha says she does not want to go back to her universe. Does not want to go through the door and want to go back to what's left of her universe, because like we established, it's all dead. So the Watcher says, that's fine, the door was more of a pretense anyway, and so he snaps his fingers and the bar just disappears, and we see that the Watcher and Natasha are now in a S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier. And right now we see SHIELD soldiers fighting off as Guardian soldiers, and in the middle of them we see Captain America and Captain Marvel just blasting and beating off more of these as Guardian soldiers. And she asks, "Where the hell are we?" And the Watcher says, "This is the world that lost its Natasha." Or, to put it another way, this is the universe where Hank Pym killed the Avengers. And as such, the Watcher just kind of ushers Natasha off, and what I love best is that just as Loki's about to kill this world's Nick Fury, she just comes in and kicks Loki right in the head, and he says, "I thought you were dead," and he's like, "Yeah, I thought so. I thought you were too." So she grabs his scepter, hits it, pokes him in the chest, and Loki falls unconscious. And while Fury knows that this is not his Natasha, he knows that she still has Natasha's spirit, and, well, still Natasha, so he's glad to have her back. As such, the episode ends with us once again seeing everyone's universes, everyone's back where they belong, doing what they do best, save Killmonger, but let's be honest, he was screwed anyway, and he was a bad guy, so I think he kind of got his comeuppance finally. And in the meantime, the Watcher says that he will continue to watch and safeguard the multiverse because he cherishes it. That's his pledge, that no matter whatever threats come to the multiverse, he'll always be there to face them. So, yeah. So, as a whole, what did I think of the season finale? Honest to God, it was effing awesome. I'm not going to lie. This was a great finale. It was awesome just seeing all of these people. I think what makes it really cool is that this finale just kind of represents the entirety of the season in one way, in every single way, shape, or form. We see representatives from every universe that we've seen so far just all brought together for this one, with like the exception of Gamora, who was not from any of the previous episodes, who was mostly just in there to, I think, kind of round things out. But otherwise, in one way, every episode in some way is represented. We got Captain Carter, we got them. Every member of the team, save Gamora, is from a previous universe. That we've seen. The villain is Vision Ultron from the world where Ultron won. We got brief cameos from those other from other universes, like when, in the case of where Natasha was dropped off in the universe where the Avengers were killed before they could form, or when Strange Supreme summoned a horde of zombies from the zombie universe, which was actually awesome. But again, at the same time, it's so cool seeing all these characters coming to fight side by side to take down this greater threat in Ultron, who they really showcase as powerful and immense, and it really keeps you on the edge of your seat seeing them all fighting him. Just to keep him from getting one stone with the Soul Stone, that fight was just brutal, as we see Ultron keep trying to get it, but they have to do their best to fend him off, or anytime someone gets close, they get knocked aside. It's just so damn awesome seeing it all come together and seeing all these characters interact. It's just so, and it's all makes it better is that, like with phase 1 of the event of the MCU, we saw all these characters and we established them early on, so it's fun. So to see them all come together, all of them from different universes, different realities with different circumstances, it's just so damn fun, and I love it. With that being said, is the episode perfect? I would argue not really. It's not perfect. One of the major problems with the episode is that while it does definitely have the air of like an Avengers movie where all the heroes come together and face off a greater threat, the main difference between the Avengers movies and this episode is that those were 2+ hour movies, whereas this is a 35-minute episode. And because those are movies, we can not only air them out long enough to have action and suspense and tension, but also some nice character moments thrown in there. So while we do get that in the episode, we get small little moments scattered throughout, like when the team first meets up and they have a brief moment of calm before they go to face Ultron. We do see them interact, like when I mentioned how Captain Carter talked with Strange Supreme and how... Excuse me a sec. Sorry about that. Extenuating circumstances have forced me to change my location. Anyway, as I was saying, yeah, we do see some brief character interactions, like with Strange Supreme talking about how in his universe Captain America was Steve Rogers. And we do get some little stuff, like when we see Killmonger react to Star-Lord T'Challa. Sorry, dog. Excuse me. Okay, dog is hopefully taken care of. Anyway, yeah, it's complaining about lack of interactions. Yeah, like I said, we get some minor character interactions, which are good. They're actually really nice, but unlike the Avengers movie, we don't see too much of it. Again, which makes sense. It makes sense why they'd have to cut down on the interaction, and because again, we need to have the fight with Ultron, and again, they have established that Ultron is a very powerful force. So it's not something that can just like go down in a few minutes. So they have to, so that's obviously going to take a good chunk of the episode to do. But at the same time, when because of that sacrifice, it does kind of not make you feel as connected with this team as you would have with the Avengers. And to be fair, it doesn't mean that the actual members are lacking. Like with Phase 1 of the Avengers and all the other films subsequently, because we got the chance to get to know these characters prior to this episode, we do still have some form of a connection with them. We know Star-Lord T'Challa's backstory and the struggles he went through. We know Captain Carter and how her story is very similar to that of Captain America's, to the point where I love how when we popped in on her, she was just in the beginning of the Winter Soldier. Well, to be fair, there probably isn't a Winter Soldier in this universe, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out. Or in the case of Party Thor, he was getting ready for his day with Jane, and we see him fighting off the Ultron robots. We know these characters, and we've established them through previous episodes. In fact, it's actually kind of cool seeing Strange Supreme fighting like he is, because it does remind you of Doctor Strange. It's just that this version is a lot more powerful because of all the monstrous beings he's absorbed. But at the same time, you can see, and what I like best about him is that you can see the determination in his eyes when things get hairy. You can tell he has learned from his grievous error, and he wants to fix it. He wants to make things better. He wants to at least try and make up for what he's done. And in this case, if he couldn't save his world, at least he'll save the rest of them, which I like that. And it's all just through like his expressions. He's willing to make the sacrifices. He's the one that's ready to guard the mini-universe at the end to make sure that Killmonger and Zola don't escape. That, I think, I like. I like seeing that. It's just, again, it feels like he's the one that got the lion's share of character stuff in that regard. For the rest of them, we got some stuff with Natasha, which I like that she at least got a happy ending. There is actually in some cases, there is some kind of character finality for many of them. It is cool seeing Star-Lord T'Challa fighting off Ego and actually meeting him with Peter and having them both fight side by side, albeit briefly, in the finale, which I like that. It's at least still cool to see them interacting because, again, one Star-Lord in this universe and the other Star-Lord in another. So I think that's really awesome. I like seeing Natasha going to a universe that lost her, in this case the one where Hank Pym killed them all. And so she can step back in, and while a good chunk of her friends are still dead, Clint's still dead in this universe, so that's going to be kind of a hard pill to swallow. At the same time, there's still Captain Marvel and Captain America, and she can still join up with S.H.I.E.L.D. and still be in a familiar setting. At least humanity is still alive here. At least there's still something to fight for. Or at the very least, she could just step back if she wants to. She could retire if she wanted. That's actually a nice thing to do. It gives her character finality. And again, in the case of Captain Carter, which I was going to say, but I might as well talk about it here, we see her have some kind of form. We see her at least have the beginnings of a finale. Because when she returns to her universe, it's right in the middle of a fight, but her bacon is thankfully saved by her world's Natasha, who directs her towards what they were sent to find. Because at the beginning of Winter Soldier, Cap and Black Widow were going to this pirate. We're taking care of these pirates, and it turns out that in this reality, they were safeguarding the Hydra Stomper, and according to Natasha, there's someone inside. And that's where they end it. That's where they end that episode, actually, because that's the final scene in the episode, which I like that. Hints at more to come. So she herself could easily be getting a happy ending as well. But again, so I guess I'll give a positive for that. While it lacks a lot of the character interactions between other Avengers films have had, at the very least, it does offer finality for them, especially with Killmonger, who finally has karma catch up to him, as through all of his planning, all of his scheming. In his own universe, we saw that Shuri and Pepper managed to finally at least amass enough information and power to finally get everyone to go after Killmonger, but the only reason he didn't face comeuppance is because the Watcher whisked him away. But again, now he's trapped in a single moment for the rest of eternity in a pocket universe. So, dude's kind of got karma. So, dude kind of had karma come knocking on his door eventually. So, I like seeing that. Though, and yeah, you do knew he was eventually going to turn traitor when you saw him just messing with the Ultron head. So, yeah, I at least like seeing that come. I see at least like seeing that come full circle. And there's still plenty of kick-ass moments and fight, and the fight scene, of course, is still fantastic as we see the Guardians of the Multiverse each using all their powers and trying to work off each other in battle. Of course, Strange Supreme dominates because he's the most powerful of them all. But each of them still contributes in any way they can, and ultimately Strange Supreme's not the one is the one. Well, okay, he is the one that lands the final blow. But it's ultimately Natasha and Captain Carter who manage to take down Ultron. So I like that. I like seeing that. I like seeing the group working off each other. It's just that, again, what holds the episode back is that it's mostly action, not enough character stuff. Again, we do get some stuff, and it's nice, and again, it's cool seeing the finality for these characters and having everything come to fruition, especially in the case of T'Challa, as we know that if What If continues, we're probably not going to be seeing any version of him again. But at the very least, it's still nice to see it all just kind of come to fruition. And it just kind of is, it's really interesting to see and watch, and I love it for that. Again, what holds it back is just the fact that it's mostly fights, and while it is nice seeing the finale for these characters, at the same time, I feel like that it could have just used a little bit more, and that holds the episode back from being amazing to just from being the best, just kind of great. Which again, great is still good. Like overall, the episode's just great. It's just from a story perspective, it's all right. Like only from a story perspective. The rest of the episode more than makes up for it. But without, like I said though, the rest of the episode, like I said, there's still a lot to like. From of the little character interaction we do get, we see some interesting stuff as characters compare notes between their universes. We see character finality for quite a few of them. We get hints of future things to come with the Hydra Stomper or with Strange Supreme holding that little crystalline globe. So that stuff I think is really so that stuff keeps you interested in wanting to see more. And of course you got say the stuff when Natasha going to the world where the Avengers were killed off. That's just nice to see. Again, we still got plenty of kick-ass, awesome action, which really takes advantage of the players and their abilities. We do have some humor. Some of it comes from Party Thor, who is still kind of a massive moron. But at the very least, you see that he's trying and he does his best. And while he may be kind of a dumbass, he's still Thor. And there's a reason he's still wielding Mjolnir. And he does his best to still fight his best with the rest of the group. So I like seeing that at least. And of course, and in fact, there is still some fair bit of humor. In fact, one of my favorite scenes is when Thor unintentionally got Ultron's attention. His battle cry is "Viva Las Vegas!" and then he just blasts him with the hammer. And of course, Ultron, powered by the Infinity Stones, just brushes it off. But once the lightning stops, he's like, "Huh, I have never heard that battle cry before," which I think was just kind of amusing because I like seeing just Ultron confused, but then he just kind of rolls it like, whatever. I can take that. Like I think that's just it's a small moment, but I love it. There's still plenty of stuff like that. Again, the episode, well, what it lacks in the story department, it makes up for in a lot of other areas. In the finality representation of all the other episodes. Like I said, every episode of What If is represented in one way, shape, or form in this episode, whether it be through a cameo or just a little brief little snippet, or in the case of the team, just representatives from each of the universes. It's so nice seeing them all come together. It's nice seeing them face off against Ultron. It's so nice to see them all ultimate and see where they end up. It's just so damn cool in every sense of the word, and it just makes me it just made me excited from beginning to end. That's what this episode is. It's a thrill ride from beginning to end. What it lacks in the story, it makes up for in every other department. The fight scenes are awesome. The action is impressive. The character finality is just superb. And it still leaves enough open so that if you're interested in revisiting any of these universes, you still can. Because, while Killmonger's story is kind of done, or, well, at least in his universe, there's still matter of the Pocket universe, which could break at any time. We got the whole thing with the Hydra Stomper, so Captain Carter's universe could come back. Yeah. Or, in the case of the zombie universe, that could still be continued. There's still zombie Thanos out there, and he's still got his Infinity Stones, so that could come back at some point, so that'd be interesting to see in season 2. So, yeah, on the whole, the season finale, I think, while not perfect, is still really damn fun and great to watch, and I highly recommend you see it. It's just a thrill ride from beginning to end, and what it lacks in certain areas, it more than makes up for in the rest. So, yeah, that's about it. That was the first season of What If, and my thoughts as a whole. While the season itself is not perfect, like with the actual What If comic, there are some stories that, like, the stories do kind of have a hit or miss quality to them, and while most of the stories were more hits than misses, there were a couple of flubs here and there. Again, the universe where Killmonger saved Tony Stark, while not bad, definitely felt like half of the story than when it just felt like one half of a story. And so I felt like it was lacking. There was a lack of finality in the zombie episode, or some twist and just kind of came out of nowhere. But that being said, even at its worst, I don't think it was bad. None of this season was bad. Even the Killmonger episode, while I have my personal problems with it, I don't think what we got in it was not bad at all. And every episode, regardless of the quality of it, offered something interesting to see. A different take, a different look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but through a different lens. Each one of them offered something unique and interesting. The Captain Carter episode just showed us like a fun little universe where Peggy Carter was in the costume instead of Steven Rogers. The universe with T'Challa as Star-Lord was just fun to see, as he grew up in a different environment, yet still carried with him a lot of the same values that he had in the main timeline. The universe where the Avengers were being killed off was a nice murder mystery I thought was cool. Strange Supreme's story was a tragedy from beginning to end. The zombie universe was a friggin' zombie storyline, and that was actually fun, even if it felt like it just stopped. The Killmonger Tony Stark episode showed just how much of a manipulative Machiavellian villain Killmonger could truly be if left unopposed, and just seeing as we see him work all the sides. The universe with party folklore is just hands down my favorite episode. The Ultron one definitely helped bring things to a head, and you already heard me gushing about this episode, so there you go. And at the end of the day, that's what If is. Regardless of the quality of the story, there's always something there that's unique and interesting. And that's what I love about multiverse stories. Just seeing a brief view into the story that you know, but twisted and changed to fit this new world. And because of those twists, you see a familiar setting just altered. And for me, the joy is seeing how they're altered. What's the same? What's different? How are things progressing now with this new setup? And no matter and like I said, regardless of the quality of each episode, it was still so damn cool just seeing each of these worlds and seeing how they were changed because of the because of each divergence, and how the world developed because of said divergence. It made every week when I tuned in something I looked forward to. Every Wednesday when I came back and I thought, okay, what's up? I was always excited. Even if the episode just made me kind of go, at the end, I never was not excited for the next one. Every one was a joyride from beginning to end, and just seeing every episode, and how it developed, how the universe changed because of just one minor decision, it was a joy to watch, and that is the beauty of What If, both the show and the comic. Even if you're not a fan, at the end of the day, I think What If is still a fantastic series. It's not great, but for what it is, it's so unique and interesting, and every episode offered something unique and interesting in and of themselves that kept you coming back and wanting to see more. And that is what I love about What If, and I cannot wait for season 2 and see what other alternate realities are visited and how they'll play into the greater scope of the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse. So, yeah. That is all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed these vlogs, and if you didn't, that's understandable. But if you did enjoy them, I hope at the very least that you watch them alongside the What If series, because it's a great series to watch. And while I know Disney/Marvel have no plans to put the Disney Plus shows on DVD, if any day the Disney Plus shows did, What If is going to be a day one buy for me. I will gladly add that to my MCU collection just because it's What If. And if you haven't watched it, at the very least, I hope these vlogs have what made you curious about, say, maybe the MCU itself if you're not a fan, or maybe the other Disney Plus shows, or hell, maybe you want to check out the comics. I still recommend the What If comics. They're all just as unique and interesting as the show itself, and like I said, while not all stories land, there are still plenty of unique and interesting twists in each story that I think make them worth looking into. So I genuinely hope that you enjoyed this vlog series along with me, and and if you and when What If returns, so too will these vlogs. So if you like these vlogs, you have that to look forward to. And if you didn't like these vlogs, you have something to dread. But at the very least, I'm glad if you are a constant watcher. I'm glad you took this journey with me. I look forward to seeing you again when season 2 of What If comes out. But till then, if you want to see me do more of these craptastic vlogs, you can tune in every Friday where every Friday I do a vlog on a series or franchise that I enjoy. Currently I'm on Kolyoko and we're nearing the end of that show. But this Friday and the next Friday, I'm going to be looking at Marvel-related material. Well, Marvel Cinematic Universe-related material, which I'll talk about when I actually get to them. So you'll have that. If you're interested, you can go and check that out. But if you're not, totally fine. I get it. But yeah, if you're just here for What If, I'm glad you stick around to watch this with me. And I hope to see you again for Season 2. So again, yeah, that's about it. Sorry for the crappy lighting. It's getting late. I hope you have a good night. I'm Samuel Johnson, and take care.